Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 regular Selectmen's meeting. It's a combination Selectmen, in-person and Zoom meeting. We have all of our Selectmen present. And we have the town manager, chair of the town planning board, as the town clerk is on Zoom, as we have the librarian, Sharon Kelly, on Zoom. We have Jeremy Caston on Zoom, and probably some more people I haven't seen yet. Please stand with me and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order is the approval of our September 14th minutes.
I'm going to accept the minutes as presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll since we're combined here. Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And I'll sign this now before I forget, Patty. How's that? All right. First, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Anything, Sarah? No? We have no public comment. We do have a public hearing and approval. The public hearing is on the general assistance maximums and an ordinance adoption. Let me get my paperwork. That's number 7. So this is something that we do every year, is the general assistance. We have to, the state supplies us with the figures that they suggest for our municipality. There's, let's see, an overall increase of 4% roughly. Food is an increase of 2%, housing is 4%, utilities is no change, heating fuel is no change, personal care and household supplies are no change. Mileage rate is 0.45 cents, 45 cents per mile, and there is no change to the funeral maximums.
Does the town pay this?
This is what we have in our general assistance fund, so if somebody comes to the town
They
hall,
can get all this?
if they qualify, yeah,
qualify.
right, yeah. There's,
So that's from the people of the borough, though, it's not from the
Right.
state?
right,
Okay.
right. And you know, is I know we have a new person, Julie, running the general assistance now. I'm sure she's getting things in hand right now. And I haven't heard of any, what's that?
She's doing a good job as the caseworker.
You know, and I know though, before the town really made sure that everybody did everything they needed to do. You know, we've sat in a couple different executive sessions, you know, where people have come back and, we always make sure that everything is done properly. Is there anything you would like to add, James? Nope.
Nothing on this, nope.
So, let's see.
I need 2 motions. I need you to accept the maximums for the appendices A through H, and also to accept the GA model ordinance, which was changed to reflect the most recent laws.
Right. So
It hasn't changed since 2019.
we'll do with the adopting the general assistance ordinance. You know, you heard Patty explain that it's no major changes. Any questions of Patty or anybody?
I'll make a motion that we adopt appendices A through H as described.
All right.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. It's A through, the one for general assistance ordinance, for appendices A through H. Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And then we also need a motion to accept the ordinance
the
Yeah. as presented.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommended ordinance from the MMA.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Thank you.
I will close the public hearing. We have a report from BCTV today, which is no longer going to be BCTV, I guess.
That's right. Good evening. October 20th is Community Media Day, and this is a day to celebrate and recognize all community access stations across the country. On this day, BCTV will change our name and logo to Berwick Community Media. Television is no longer the only medium that people watch for their news and information. As our society shifts from newspapers and television to streaming, podcasting, and social media for their information, BCTV must also make that shift. We are already streaming both channels on our webpage at berwicktv.org, and we stream our government meetings on YouTube. I utilize Facebook to distribute and tell our viewers about our newest releases. Berwick Community Media will encompass all the above forms as well as any new ones that develop in the future. Aaron Thomas, a local graphic artist in Berwick, created the logo for us. Ralph and I worked closely with Aaron to produce this design, and we are pleased to finally have a professional logo that we can use on our videos, slides, signs, and marketing. Our BCTV logo has served us very well. However, it was not created in a vector format, making it difficult to change size without distorting the image. Returning to Community Media Day, I wondered if the board might also recognize their local community station by signing a Community Media Day proclamation. This proclamation will be hung in the entranceway to the Burgess Meeting Room, letting all who enter know that Berwick Community Media is an important resource to the town of Berwick. And I'd like to read the proclamation if you don't mind.
go ahead.
Whereas the open and local exchange of information helps to inform our communities and encourage civic engagement, and whereas access to information in today's diversified media environment is critical to the health of our local government, charity, schools, and civic engagement. And whereas community media organizations provide information to the community that is not always available from regional and statewide media outlets. And whereas community media organizations provide people with the skills necessary for creation, sharing, and sharing of knowledge and ideas through media outlets. And whereas community media is an important resource for participating in local democratic policy and processes. And whereas community media connects community organizations, schools, and local governments to their constituents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that October 20th is hereby proclaimed as Community Media Day within the town of Berwick, and all people are hereby called upon to promote the importance of and programming available through Berwick Community Media. Be it further resolved that Berwick Community Media plays a vital role in the building of our community by encouraging conversations about our common interest, fostering understanding of local cultures, and sharing information to improve our lives. And that's the proclamation that I'd like to have the board sign if they would. Any
Aye.
questions?
I have no problem signing. I think that local media is an important part of transparency and communication throughout the community. I have no issue with that. Anybody else?
I have no problem, obviously.
No, No, I agree. I think, Terry, you've done a great job getting information out, and then this is just one more step in really driving what you're doing down there, so thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I think the logo looks great.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they have seen it. What I'll do is email a copy to board members who are not here.
Perfect, thank you.
All right,
And
great.
I can run down to speak Patty and sign it if she wants it all signed at one spot too.
All right.
And before you leave, we have a motion to accept the,
I make a motion that we accept the proclamation and sign by the board.
Second it.
any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. There's Mark,
Yes,
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Great.
which
Thank
one
you.
which one is it gonna be, you know, did she say?
They're both our logos. It's just one is in a colored format.
Okay, so we use
The
both.
white one is actually what we use for the video programming and that
Yep.
type of thing.
Yep, that's good.
All right?
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That brings us up to Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. Envision
Hi,
Berwick.
morning. Hi, everybody. Well, I got a couple updates from Envision Berwick. I think I heard James mention, as you all were gearing up, that next Tuesday we are having our first of the new Bring Your Lawn Chairs to Sullivan Square meetings. We are very excited to bring back this summer concert series, which we started this summer before COVID, and looking forward to a fun and safe and exciting return to the concert series on Sullivan Square with a slightly updated and expanded format. We've hooked up with the Falls Chamber of Commerce and are working with them to bring all the Berwicks, as well as Somersworth and Rollinsford, into lawn chairs, although it will be Berwick's premier summer concert series. We want to be inclusive and start to draw all our towns together. We also are focusing on a spectrum of acts and performers, not just one per event, but hopefully several in almost a variety show-like format with a headliner, but also maybe some young people we're hoping from the local schools performing on the stages side by side with some of the better-known local acts. So that in addition to hopefully bringing back some of the great ideas that were implemented by the oh my gosh, I always forget now, Historical Days.
Heritage.
Heritage Day.
Heritage Days, thank you, which Lisa outlined for me and I've read about in the Mainly Berwicks, which just sound so great and really kind of family fun, free event. So anybody who wants to help us put together this amazing event, please join us next Tuesday. You can email us at envisionberwick@gmail.com and I will send you the Zoom link. And we would love to have lots of people on board and lots of ideas and lots of participation. I think this would be a great way to really set things up well for next summer. In addition to that, I believe all of you have received information from us from our Dig a Hole Once committee. This is a subcommittee that we formed not that long ago based on some of conversations that James and I had with Frank initially, maybe even a year ago or longer, and thinking about how we can incorporate the excitement with the Edge and a bunch of these studies we've done with downtown into moving these projects forward. So what the committee's done is they've recognized and outlined 15, is it 16 now, Sharon? With the, it is 16 now with the sidewalks, projects that we think will improve our side of the street, so to say, from the Edge, so that while they're doing their work, we also do our work, working hand in hand with, the DOT, as well as, utilities and things like cable, so that you're digging a hole once. you're not opening up the ground and doing something, and then coming back 2 years later and doing it again. And that was the idea that came from Frank that we found inspiring, that sort of set these wheels in motion. So with these 16 projects, we've been in touch with VHB, and what we'd like to do is have them put together what is essentially going to become a playbook that outlines the projects, the scope of work, the the approach, as well as sources for funding, and becomes sort of the marching orders forward for taking the center of town and some of these roads moving outward and making improvements. So what we would like to do is we strongly recommend that this is how we move forward. We think that it is the first next step in these projects, and we would like to ask to make a motion to approve the funding for the work from VHB. So that's where we stand. There are several members of the committee who are on either Zoom or in the room. Pat, Paul, Sharon, James as well, who I haven't been at all of the meetings, so if there's questions, they certainly are probably going to be more articulate than I will be. But we do think this is a great opportunity to move our downtown forward while the Edge does their work. And I think that's the big stuff coming from Envision, which is all pretty big for now.
Any questions for Jeremy? Any comments you want to add,
I
James?
think the source of the funding can come from our TIF funds. We've been accumulating a small amount just from marginal increases of value around in the village center. We have $56,000 in the TIF funds. VHB, so we've been working with Jason Reddy. He was with Malone McBroom, and he helped us do our second traffic study. VHB actually did our first traffic study with traffic counts. So Jason went from Malone McBroom to VHB, so we kind of followed him, and he sat in on our second committee meeting to go over the scope of work. And this is, I think we have a history of spending a little bit of money and then immediately leveraging that into bigger grant funding. So we spent, I think Envision Berwick matched, I think it was $11,000 for a study, and we leveraged that into $800,000 for a CACS grant. We're lined up for about $3 million in additional federal funding. We were chosen for kind of a step one in this federal funding, and they're going to mark it up. This will help us, I think, answer any questions they have to further put together this in a nice package that could be presented. I think that's a good synopsis, and I think we'd be happy to answer any further questions on it.
So we should stick with VHB then.
I think so, and
Yeah.
And
Say that though. Speak up when we talk.
Sebago's doing work on behalf of Great Falls Construction.
Right.
We have a good collaborative relationship. VHB would work on our behalf.
Right.
Have both, because
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
at some point there's going to be like the intersection of Main Street and Sullivan Street could be a shared project where they have a concept, we have our traffic engineer look at it, and we kind of, they'll have their interest for people getting in, but we'll have interest with wanting to cross the parking lot to get to the parking lot, things like that.
Okay. I'm just going to ask, I know I asked it before, but I want to ask it publicly. This falls within the town policy because it's under 10,000, so we don't need to put it out for bid.
It does not need to go to a competitive bid, yep.
Okay.
So, are we looking for a motion to accept the contract with VHB?
Yes.
Does Mike or anyone have any questions?
Any questions, any comments?
The only other comment that I'd add is I think we've only done the preliminary work to this point. I think having a selectman liaison at this point to, and even a couple to join us, because our next steps are to engage, sit down with Great Falls Construction and start talking about shared projects, and really taking the next steps for this project. So now is a great time to jump on board.
All right, I wonder-
Obviously, time is of the essence with all of this stuff. You know, as the edge moves forward, we want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row so that, I mean, literally, so that we are not opening up streets more than once. And so that all the stuff gets tucked in and made correct.
I'm gonna just quickly
A couple weeks, we haven't set it.
interject here. You know, the contract we're talking about is $8,800 for VHB to provide a scope of services. And as we had been talked about previously, is things like moving utilities underground, you know, is reconstruction of the intersections of Sawmill Hill and Route 9, Sullivan Street sidewalks, things like that. So these are just, you know, the preliminary investigations into this to see which is the ones that we should attack first, correct?
Yeah, I think sequencing, and that's all part of it.
Right.
Phasing.
So,
Also notable that part of, as I understand it, James, that part of what they will do is help point us in the direction of funding
Right.
for
Right.
grants, et
Right.
cetera.
At some level, we might submit a grant for the whole shebang. In some pieces, we can pinpoint, you know, there's a $100,000 grant here, and go and piece it together that way.
So this is the tool that's gonna get us to the larger grants.
Yep,
hopefully, yes.
yep.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, it serves those two purposes.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
Yeah. As James said, we've worked with VHB, well, with Broom and, I can't even remember that one. With VHB and the other one is on these things back and forth. And so they're familiar with what's going on in town here. So they've already been down and know the background and everything. So this helps a lot. So do we have a motion to accept the contract?
Let's make the motion to accept the contract.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. As Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So yeah, I think this is an important, next step. This is what we've been working on for the last 8 years, really.
Right.
With Envision Berwick. So with, hopefully, as you said, that first study that we used, that to get the other monies that we had, so is, I'm looking forward to this. So. All right, any department reports? No? All right, we have Nicole Fecto, the planning board chair, to discuss impact fees.
Hello, board. I just want to bring this to the forefront of your brains, really, more than anything, because as we know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I can be pretty squeaky. So in 2017, we approved impact fees. It was one of my pet projects, and John Stoll was our planner at that time. And so at that time, we earmarked 50% of what was collected to go toward recreation, 50% toward open space. And we have 10 years from the time that that is collected to use it properly, or we have to refund it back to the developer. And so I want to make sure that you're all very well aware and educated on what they can be used for, and maybe have some more brains look into better uses for them. So I'm going to, there's actually a whole pamphlet, and you may have read this, you may not have, but I'm going to give one to the chairman, and the rest are available online. I can email them to you, but it's financing infrastructure improvements through impact fees. And it basically outlines exactly how impact fees can be used legally in the town. And so some of the things are highway improvements, streets and intersection improvements to increase capacity to handle traffic, public safety facilities, so new buildings or improvements to police, fire, emergency buildings, sewer and water expansions, expansions to sewer and water treatment plants, parks and open space, which we have now, which is the purchase or improvements to public parks, open space, and other recreation facilities. And school improvements are also on there, school construction and improvement projects, if these projects are designed to accommodate students living in newly constructed residences. And as you know, every single one of those things on that list are things that we need money for in this town, and we have money. So things that impact fees cannot be used for: operations and maintenance, salaries, day-to-day costs of replacing materials used in providing a governmental service, meeting existing deficiencies, so you couldn't replace portable classrooms with it, or relieve already congested streets, and then facilities that are not needed to serve a new development. So some of the suggestions I would like to make are, one, we have a lot of money right now. Well, it's a lot to me. So in our open space fund, we have about $124,000, and in our recreation fund, we have about $71,000. I understand that we're negotiating with an abutter to the ball fields, and some of that open space money may be used for that, and I'm unaware of how much money is being negotiated at that point. But as a real estate agent, I would be happy to advise the town. One of my suggestions is to look at using the recreation impact fees to finish the sidewalk that goes in between the fire station and the police station up to Logan Street. That was part of the approved plan, and that has not been completed. Also suggesting that open space impact fees be used to build a park up in that same area on the Estabrook site. What I'm gathering from talking to people in town is that what they want to see is green space and parks. And the Edge is setting aside like 30% of their land, which is awesome. And people are still not satisfied with that. But we have a beautiful space, and we have the money up there to do that, to put a couple of park benches in, and it's not, no harm, no foul up there. And it's area we already own, so why not use it? So the other thing I would like you to do is rethink about using open space as a use for our impact fees. First of all, open space is not defined in our land use ordinance yet, and I will be bringing this proposal to our next planning board meeting that we define open space. I have reviewed like 100 different definitions of it. I like any parcel or area of land or water essentially unimproved and set aside, dedicated, designated, or reserved for public or private use or enjoyment of, or for the purposes intended to preserve important natural features. Basically, open space is land that isn't going to be developed, whether it's public, private land. There are, as a matter of fact, sitting on the board right now and in our audience, folks that have put easements on hundreds of acres of land in our town to preserve it from development, which is amazing, and thank you for doing that. So in 2017, it was determined that the goal was 13 acres of open space per 1,000 residents. Our current population is right around 8,000 residents, which makes our goal 104 acres of open space. So right now, I've been tallying the open space in our town. It's taken me about 2 weeks of every day working on this. It's been a lot of fun. I learned an awful lot. Our open space, and this is not tree growth. This is actual protected, undevelopable land in our town, is about 2,000 acres. That's a lot of land. That's a lot more than the 104 acres. That was our goal. It's about 1/4 of an acre per resident, actually. Let's see. It's almost 1% of the town, which is kind of cool. So even if we only count lands that are parks and green space, we have about 500 acres of parks and green space in our town. And that's Great Works Regional Land Trust. I sat on the board of directors for that, for the land trust, and that's their job, is to identify key open space and preserve it. They've got the money to do it. They've got the knowledge to do it. Let's let them do it, because they're doing it and it's not costing us anything to do it. Projected open space and income from current projects in front of the planning board right now, we're looking at collecting approximately $400,000 in impact fees with the projects that we have before us right this minute. We're looking at adding about 20 acres of open space to our tally right this minute. So those are just things I want you to keep in mind. I, looking at it from this grand perspective, don't think open space is the best use of hundreds of thousands of dollars of money when we have the ability to use it to do a lot of different projects. one of the things that I'm glad that Envision Berwick was up right before me, and actually I had no idea until 2 days ago that you guys were really working toward your plan. But you do need to have gone through a preliminary planning process for most of these uses and have some sort of capital improvement plan, which is exactly what you just approved with VHB. So that's awesome. Anyway, so action items I just have is we did use $5,700 in recreation impact fees to put new shingles on a building, and that looks like that was actually approved May 28th, 2019. I'm not sure if that counts as maintenance. So that was I just had a question because I went through all the expenditures for that. Review the pamphlet, look at the sidewalk situation, look at the Estabrook School situation. And my last thing was approve the Envision Berwick VHB proposal. So it looks like you've already done that. But that's all. I just wanted to kind of bring that more to the front of your brain. Any questions that I can answer?
Questions for Nicole?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
It-
Oh. That's included in here.
Yeah.
The Great Falls Park. I did include that in my tally. I was pretty thorough. I went through all of the tax maps. I went through every single tax map and I looked at all the because subdivisions have open space too. And whether it's the homeowners association that owns it or whatever, I mean, there's open space all over the place. And I'm happy to provide my tally that I came up with. I know James is interested in it, so I'll send it to you.
Before you leave,
Yes.
I have some questions and
Sure.
comments. Is your open space, when you talk about the thousands of acres, you're including private properties
Yes,
in
yes.
that?
It's anything with an
Is-
easement that's protected
is-
from developing.
I was, one of the drivers behind getting these impact fees in place. And the open space, from my perspective, was
Mm-hmm.
for the town to buy land that we control, not
Okay.
that somebody else controls. So I don't see how you can say that the town has 2,000 acres of open space when we don't. We have parks and things like that.
Right.
But, my family does have a conservation easement, but, I don't invite the public up to my
No,
land.
and open
is-
space isn't about public space.
Right.
Right.
So this is for public recreation. That's where I was
So
going with that.
Then
And-
I suggest that we define open space as the town wants to accumulate 100 acres of public recreation space that the town then owns, and have a plan for figuring out how are we going to identify it? Because we've been collecting money for 3 years, haven't spent a dime of it. How are we identifying it? How are we figuring out, what it is that we want? Where are we going to find 100 acres of land? We've got like 11 acres on Horns Mill Road that we haven't done anything with. We've got little spurts of land all over, but then if that's what the definition is, if that's what the select board finds the definition is, then I think we should amend or add that definition to our land use ordinance.
Part of,
But
it's-
open space is generally protected land, not going to be developed, not necessarily that the town owns it. And then another question for that is, what is the cost of the town owning land? What is the cost of maintaining land the town owns? What is the cost of insurance on that land? Those are some other things, like there's a cost.
The cost of taking it off the tax rolls, we'll say that.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll use my family as an example, is we have lots on two sides of the road. One has no buildings on it, is approximately 70 acres, I believe. And my taxes on that are around $500, $600, I think.
Right.
So taking that amount of money off the tax roll isn't going to be a huge
Right.
difference to the town, as far as taxes are concerned. And as you talked about the open spaces, we did, the board, discussed and we okayed. We're in the process of negotiating 3 acres of purchase 3 acres of land off of next to the rec field, and that's going to be spending about $100,000 off of that. So that drops that down rather quickly.
Yes, yes.
So it's a matter of where we want to buy this land. Is if it's next to the rec field, we're going to be paying a premium.
Yeah,
If
that's
it's
actually a
out
really
on
good
Diamond
deal.
Hill Road, we
Yeah.
won't be.
That's actually a really good deal on that land, because land is going for about 88,000 an acre, so.
Believe me, it's less than what they started at. Believe me.
No, that's good, and that's good to know. And like I said, Great Works Land Trust land, I mean, they own it, they maintain it, they put parking lots there, they've got 500
They
acres.
pay taxes.
Yeah, they pay taxes, that's what I'm saying, like, I don't know if, like, that's great for us. We've got great public access acreage that they're doing. I'm just saying, I think it's worthwhile for the board to think of other ways to use
And we
impact
had
fees.
started discussions earlier this year,
Yeah.
you know, before the new members came on, about changing the impact fees specifically for sidewalks.
Right,
As,
right.
you know, 'cause
Yep.
as
Yeah.
you know, I've been in front of the planning board a few times.
love it.
Complaining about developments with no sidewalks.
I know.
And I think, since you're here, I think that's one of the things that we need to talk about.
We can.
Is that these developments that get put in, no, there's a clause in there that said that they should build sidewalks if there's an existing network next to them.
Correct.
I think that needs to change.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
That we can.
perfect example is up on Old Pine Hill Road next to the library.
Yeah.
You know, he should have been putting money into a project, into a fund that would fund sidewalks down Sullivan Street. And when I came and proposed that at the planning board, I was shot down pretty quick. Is because, you know, we can't make the developer do that. It wasn't economically feasible for him to fill in the ditch and put the sidewalk in. Well, if it's not economically feasible for a developer, how is it gonna be economically feasible for the town?
Right.
You know?
Oh, I think there's
The town-
engineering.
The sidewalk we're building up on Sullivan Street,
Right.
how much is that costing the town?
I think it's in the $70,000 range.
Yeah.
And that's the cheap one because the storm drains are already there.
Well, that's it, and that's it. There's a whole engineering thing, and I think if you create it, I don't know if the planning board is allowed to just create a fund and say, okay, everybody has to contribute to it. We're not opposed to that. It's just that we're not in a position to be like, okay, we're creating this fund all of a sudden.
I brought it up.
That's-
I brought it up over several years to
Right.
the planning
I mean,
board,
is that
saying
a-
that we should do something,
Since
and
we
the
have
planning
the
board has never brought anything to the selectmen
Right.
to put on a warrant to change anything.
All right.
So,
I'm
is
bringing
until we get something like that in
bringing it
here,
right now.
is I think that we need to really concentrate on what the developers are really paying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not opposed to that.
We can have them, if you want this approved, you're gonna have to put sidewalks from
Yeah.
your site all the way down to here.
Yep.
It's done all over the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have to amend our land use ordinance, correct?
I just
James?
tell them that's the way it is. If we don't, right from the get-go, we'll
Well,
amend it, but right now.
I just can't make up rules like, oh, okay, I've got all these, I just can't make up rules and make somebody do it if we don't have a precedent.
Well,
set.
we can
I mean,
change
there's
it.
a process. You
Right.
can,
Yeah.
you can make rules. I
I
can't
think
make rules.
mandating sidewalks along their frontage is at the very least a place to start.
Yeah,
So my recommendation would be, and this is something we can definitely, thank you for bringing it up. It's
Yeah.
a great discussion. My recommendation would be for single-family houses, we keep it for open space. And then for the multifamilies, we look at roadway improvements, traffic control devices, which would include sidewalks.
and we're gonna be getting a lot of money from multifamilies with the edge. So that's why I think that's why I see all of this building up at the planning board level, and that's why I thought it was important to talk about it now.
And another thing on open space, the comprehensive plan spent a ton of time talking
Yes.
about open space plan to strategically go after. We have a matrix that we've been working on
Good.
based on threat of development, pressures, natural resources, contiguous to other open spaces as well to create, because right now there's about open space corridor that goes about halfway through our town.
I've been looking at that
It's
map.
from the bottom to, it's about half.
Yeah.
You can get from 236 to School Street on conserved lands. So that's something that we are working on for open space.
But then
plan.
again, as you say, it's conserved land, but not all landowners want you on their property either.
No, and that's the
So-
thing is, I guess that's the, open space isn't necessarily public lands, public parks. Open space is space that is forever preserved. I mean, I look at it from the land trust perspective because that's where I served, and so and that's what we did. And I mean, Mike Wright's your brother. But yeah, so it's not, open space isn't defined as public access land. That's all. That's what parks and green spaces are, I guess.
Any other questions for Nicole? Questions, comments?
All
If
right,
not,
it's Taco
thank-
Tuesday. Oh, Jeremy has a question?
Hey,
Mr. Caston?
I know that I'm not on the board, but I just wanted to.
well, but you're an interested party.
At least from the reading I've done with the surveys, going back to the beginning of the vision committee, I think both are important. And Tom, your point's well taken, that land that is put in conservation isn't necessarily land people are invited to hike on, but the sense of driving through Berwick and feeling like we do have that open space, the rolling hills, and it's not all developed, seems to be, from what I'm reading, important to people. And
Yes.
preserving that, not necessarily just to be able to get out of your car and walk around, but just the experience of being in Berwick and regarding nature as part of what's outside of the downtown center seems to be a consistent message going back to the beginning of the surveys. And so I think, thinking of them not as one or the other, but I think they're both, very, very important and probably never more important in the history of the town than they are right now, as we are gonna feel, the crush of development, as more and more people are invited to work at their computers.
Hello there.
Go ahead, Pat.
Country Lane. I also just wanted to point out, and I don't know where farmland actually comes into this, but when you talk about open space, I think it's really important that Berwick makes an effort to protect their farmland. So I'm just throwing that out there. Something else to be thinking
I
about.
agree,
I agree.
wholeheartedly. All right, thank you, everybody. Unfinished business, we have none, well, actually, we have a lot of unfinished business, but we'll bring that up later. Town managers report.
So we covered dig a hole once and VHB, impact fees. I have a quick update on the water. Good night, guys. Wright Pierce is working on developing a proposal for a pilot study. There are two
Well, good night.
major,
Good to see you.
Yeah, take care.
there's, the next step is to upgrade our filtration system, and there are two options. There's one that Somersworth is doing, and we know that it works. And then there's another option that plugs into the type of water plant that we have. So the same engineers, they developed a filtration system, and that plugs into the existing system that we have. So Ray Pierce is drafting up the proposal for that. And just a reminder, we have the 1.2 million for the bond. We have the American Rescue Plan funds, which is about $800,000. And I think it'd be a good use to use most of that, and that's a discussion point we can have, can propose the actual breakdown on how we use that. I think the majority of it going to the water. And then between that, the bond, and then we're going for more funding for 2022. There's more grant funding available. We could upgrade our plant and get it to the point where we've fixed the manganese problem and upgraded our water once and for all.
The problem is, James, is as time goes on, that river's gonna degrade. It's not gonna get much better. It's just gonna,
Right.
as long as we're dumping the sewer plants into it, it's never gonna change. And you saw last summer how it got low, right? Climate change is gonna continue to get low, and I think we need an alternate source, start adding to our water, at least start working on an alternate source.
So-
At least we know where it is. If we got a well over here, it's 5 miles away, at least we know what we're gonna work towards.
The source is by Hatfield. There's one by Hatfield, and then that's the one I'm the most familiar with, and we know it's viable. So it's 2 miles, and it's about $1 million a mile to run pipe. Not saying that's that's real money, but
Yeah.
it's $2 million added. But like you said, I mean, it's water. So the thing to consider with that is if, and this is a big planning project. This is for the next director of planning to figure out if we're tapping into a water source up by Hatfields and we're running a pipe all the way down Ridland Road, then we really should look at developing Ridland Road and allowing development along Ridland Road, because
Yeah.
that's where infrastructure would be.
Yep.
That's a major change, and then that means we're maintaining Ridland Road and
Yeah.
So that's kind of what goes hand in hand with, I think, if we're tapping into that. But I think, the river, in terms of the river quality, a lot of us are opted into these MS4. So Rochester, there's so much that goes into erosion control and treatment of the water before it hits the river that the water quality is improving at a rapid pace. I mean, even we're mandated to, we're an MS4 community. There's so much, and there's more added to our plate.
What do we get? Do we get water test results to see, okay, this is getting better from last year or 2 years ago?
We do. I don't have those, but
Yeah.
it
Water
is
department
tested.
does? For
The
river
water
quality?
department has all kinds of data, and then there's other third-party
Yeah,
sources.
the federal government monitors it because of the runoff into the Great Bay.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, it's been improving. If Pat was here, she used to be one of the monitors. You know, she tested the water weekly or something like that.
Right.
So the water's, so we have data that shows the water's getting better, not worse?
Well, in terms of what's going into it, I mean, yeah, I can't speak to the climate change. That's a whole different thing. But I don't know if there's evidence that that's going to become an endangered source anytime soon.
Oh, I don't know if there's any evidence, but I think it's a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
After the last 2 summers, not this past summer, but that river was dry,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
way down.
But they
I
put-
irrigate out of it, so I notice it. And the more we pump, it clogs up sprinkler heads
Yeah,
in the
more
nursery because the
sediment,
crap, yeah.
yeah, so.
Wow.
No, this is something that, you know, we've known for decades that this is a problem, but it's a matter of money, like James said, you know. If we put the well in and spend $2 million on the pipes and everything, we're still gonna have to treat the water. You know, it's not gonna come out pristine, you know, so we're still gonna,
Well, you don't know that.
right, so.
South Berwick doesn't treat a bunch of their wells, some they do. Certain things, but I just think that it's very important we come up with another source besides the Salmon
Yep.
Falls River, the town. Just, that's like we're like the city of Boston, all of a sudden we don't have the Quabbin Reservoir in western Massachusetts anymore, what are we gonna do about water? The same thing.
Yep.
And we didn't have any
They
luck with the
planned it out.
drilling?
No luck on the drilling.
No, none of the close ones by the plant. You know, as I watched them drill several of the holes, and the problem they were running into is that the base layer was a fine sediment, so that it wouldn't hold water wouldn't perking through it, and there's a lot of clay in it, and then it went right down to bedrock. You know, so they drilled, you know, a couple holes, they hit the bedrock like 6 feet down, and then drilled 100 more feet, and nothing but rock.
Yeah, we need gravel packed,
Yeah.
some areas where the ground is a lot of gravel, in it.
Right.
That's where the water's going.
Right. Well, that's what, you know, Hatfields Lake is, you know, that started out as a gravel pit, you know, that's how he, you know, created
Out
it.
on Route 4, there's a huge aquifer
Yep.
we can tap into.
Well, we looked at these back in the mid-90s, and we were told that up by Hatfields is out on Route 4, and then up by off of the Cranberry Meadow Road, up behind the old school at the Beaver Dam Heath. But then again, it's the matter of running pipes, you know, the cost of pipes.
Right, but now there's gonna be maybe we get some Biden money
Yep.
to take care of it if we can.
But I can get some more information on the viability of the Salmon Falls River. My understanding is we upgrade our plant, we're going to be good for the time being. It might not be, I mean, if we run pipe down Route 9, that's a good opportunity for economic development, but that's more of a long-term.
Yeah,
Well, we gotta start looking long-term. I mean,
Yes.
I understand we gotta look at immediate, the river's gonna help, but I
Yeah.
agree, at some point,
yeah.
You know, it's
10
gonna be
years,
something
20
we gotta
years,
have-
are we just kicking the
Yeah, I
can
think
down
it's
the
Something
road?
long term we
Yeah.
gotta do.
It must be, what, about 5 miles from out behind the high school to downtown Berwick?
Why, is there good wells out there?
Well, up on the heath, you know, up in the Beaver Dam Heath there, you know, but, so. Yeah.
We can figure it out.
Anything else?
We have a request from Saddle Hill Drive to have their road adopted by the town. They're an existing subdivision. I'll have more information on that, but I just want to put that on.
Where is that?
It's off of Wentworth Road.
Oh, Saddle Hill, yep.
Yeah, it's been, the road's been inspected by civil consultants. We have the compaction test. It's been maintained. They're just getting to the point where they don't want to pay for plowing or Have
Yeah,
the
they want the town to pay for it.
Town to pay. And just as a side note, we have adopted a policy for any new subdivisions going forward. We're not taking over any more cul-de-sacs. But this is one of the ones that are before.
Yeah, that was before we put that into
We're
place.
just gonna take over straight roads?
Yeah, roads that connect.
Yeah.
This is from the fire department. There's a grant called SAFER. And the grant would pay for 4 full-time firefighters / EMTs for a 3-year period. This will assist the department in meeting minimum standards for 24-hour staffing. So after the 3 years, it'd be on our payroll fully. But Chief Plant has recommended this to reach their staffing needs. Again, just wanted to put on your radar. Chief Plant's looking for a go-ahead, but we have time to think this over. He's not looking for an immediate response.
Yeah, if you
What
could-
is the current number of full-time staff we have now?
I'll have to get an exact number to you.
Okay, and so if he's proposing this, and he knows it's for 3 years, because this is very similar to the cops, is
Right.
at the end of these 3 years, he's gonna be able to absorb that into his budget?
We'd have to plan for it.
Right.
Okay.
The last,
Yeah, just give us, you send the information out for us to look it over.
Absolutely,
and-
yeah.
And we can discuss, if we have time before our next meeting.
yeah,
to
the
do it.
grant period starts, I believe, in February. So I just
We
wanted
got
to
some time.
Yeah.
give you ample time. And then just a note on the Memorial Field expansion. We got the survey back, but it needs to be revised to the 3 acres that were negotiated. So we have the boundary for most of it. It just needs to be scaled down to the 3 acres.
They pulled the back.
Yeah, so we have the lines. It just has to be brought
Yeah.
down a little bit.
So where is the land anyway, about off of Knox Lane?
Is the homeowner, Jim and Melissa Cormier, they live on Knox Lane, but it extends all the way back, their property extends all the way back to the rec field. And in the far corner, where the lower soccer field is the woods right
Right
on the end
there?
there.
So we need a lot of fill.
Well, is not necessarily, because
Not
it drops down there, but it's pretty level. It used to be an old pasture, a hayfield and pasture when I was a little
Oh, so
kid.
it's dry.
And is there's a intermittent stream that runs through the middle of it, but when they came out and did the survey for the rec field itself, we walked there and they took soil samples, and the guy said that the soil itself looks like it's really nice, buildable, soil for it. So it'd be another step down probably, to another field there. So,
I have the plan in my office.
It would be nice to have it open, so if they're hauling material out of here, they need a place to put it, would be in that area, so we can build it up some, right? Well, it's not polluted, but I think we're gonna have a lot of material out of there,
Yeah.
I think. Be a great place to dump it.
but
I think anything that gets moved either needs to be taken off site or
used on
kept in
site.
there.
Take it off site, does it mean take out of town?
Yeah.
That's what that means?
Yeah. So, any other thing?
That's it.
Any questions for James?
Just one question, James. The filter that they're making a proposal for, what's the cost on that?
I think it's in the range of, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to upgrade the filtration. But the pilot obviously would be fractions of that. It's just they're putting together a proposal to look at what the cost would be to test out both. So in terms of, there's the major filtration that I would call it, and then there's other components to the water plant upgrades. One of them including constructing some lagoons that allows the sediment to sit, and then it goes to another step of filtration. So to me, I'm a layman at this, but it goes to a filtration, goes to another filtration. To me, it makes sense that it would improve the water tremendously. And this is the system that they have in Somersworth that we know works. We just would have it at a slightly smaller scale. I think in the total cost of all the upgrades, because there's a lot of upgrades, there's a low-hanging fruit, there's the major upgrades. It's approaching $3 million for everything.
Glad we couldn't give Summersworth $1 million and let us hook up to it and supply our water.
Yeah.
Would save us a lot of money. Is their water good? Have you tasted it?
I have not tasted it, but I know they don't have manganese issues.
So, if nothing, all righty. I have nothing under Selectmen's communications, as I will go through accounts payable. We have a payroll warrant number 17 for September 23rd, 2021 for the amount of $70,435.06. We have payroll warrant number 18 for September 28th, 2021 for the amount of $69,434.23. And we have an account payable warrant 19 for September 28th, 2021 for the amount of $254,487.60. I make a motion that we pay our bills.
Second it.
Second.
As I'll go through the roll, Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Now that brings us to new business. Is we have a recommitment of taxes. Let me see if I
Hey,
can.
Tom,
Yes?
hey, the sheet I just gave you during the meeting, can you ignore that and go back to the original, please?
The original page.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
one everybody has in their booklet, the one that was
This
in
one?
the folder to sign.
Yep,
Karen and I were discussing figures and we need to go back to the original.
going back to so the one you handed me is not correct then.
No, throw that one away.
All right, well, swap that out.
Thank you.
No problem. Let's see, certificate of, make sure I get the right ones now. That one goes over there, that one goes away. All right, so we have a certificate of recommitment. We had the original commitment under Steve, and he is no longer our tax collector. So this is just basically putting James in as a collector, the tax collector. Is any questions? All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommitment of taxes from, or transfer it from Steve Eldridge to James Bellissimo.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Michael,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. That's that one. All right. So the certificate of settlement, Patty, that's included in that? That's the same thing?
That one's to take one's to take Steve off the tax commitment, one is to put James on.
Oh, I see.
oh. Yeah, I made a motion to transfer from one to the other.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. That works.
Okay.
Say, do we need to make two separate motions? No.
Nope. We're good.
No, I can combine the motion, you just have to sign two separate sheets.
Yep.
Okay,
That's for me.
Okay.
All
sorry
right.
about that.
No problem. I wasn't paying attention there. All right, is transfer station fees.
Just a quick note on this. I've been talking with Jody, our Director of Public Works, and he's been comparing some of the fees we have, and we are in the orders of 50% less than our neighbors. So he's sent me some figures, and I'll have that for our next meeting for some
Okay.
proposed
Yeah, I don't
changes.
see any numbers in
Yep.
here.
So, all right, they'll go to the next meeting. All right, the next is the discussion on having the Board of Selectmen versus the Select Board. Now, this is something that is I think, Mike, you talked about it with me.
Yeah, I brought it up and, look, even tonight, right, we talked about diversity a little bit with Envision Berwick, or inclusion with Nicole when she brought it up, and it just seems to be the trend, right? Like traditionally it was selectmen because it was men, right? That's what it was. And even the MSA, so the Massachusetts Selectmen Association at the time, which is what we all modeled off of and what our municipality went off of, changed their name officially last year to the Massachusetts Select Board Association. And I just think as we talk about a younger generation that's a little more anxious sometimes and a little more cautious of what they do and how we have to be open to that, I think just I think even when we hear it in townspeople and in our subcommittees talk about it, we're referred to as a select board, and I think just to officially make that motion puts it in a line that kind of puts us in with a time of change in our town where growth is coming. And that's just how I feel about it, and I'm open to discussion on that and see how you guys feel.
This is something that is when Rebecca English was on the board, and we discussed that, at the same time, basically, nothing really official. And yeah, I do feel kind of strange referring to you as a selectman, Linda, as a,
People made a comment to me about it.
yeah. It's no big deal to me one way or the other, is personally, I don't feel very select most of the time either, so.
Let's make a motion.
Is,
I'm in agreement with you. I think the way the times are changing, we want to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
And something as simple as this, if that
Huge
makes
point.
us more inclusive, then I don't see an issue with making the change, and I would support that.
yeah. So Mike, that was a motion you made?
That was the motion I made.
Well, we'll
Change
second
the
it.
name from Town of Berwick Selectmen, or Board of Selectmen, to Town of Berwick Select Board.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. All right.
I probably just made a lot more work for Patty to change all her forms for us. Sorry, Patty.
You'll be expecting flowers in the morning, Mike.
So what do you wanna be, select board member,
Yeah,
select
Select board.
person?
select board,
Select board.
close enough.
Yeah, if someone has to
Select board
refer to an
member.
individual, it's select board member.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. Is, hey, you.
Yeah,
You usually,
Put your name with
usually I'm called a lot
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah, I've been called
We'll live
worse.
with it tomorrow with the minutes.
All right. We have to set a public hearing date for the November 2nd, 2021 town referendum election. The town clerk recommends October 26th, 2021.
Make the motion?
Mark made a motion. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And now the town manager's contract.
Well, we gotta set the
Gotta do
polling
the
hours.
hours too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
As I didn't say. All right, you're gonna set the polling hours for November 2nd, 2021 town referendum. The town clerk recommends 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I make a motion that we set the hours for 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I'll second it.
Second.
Whatever. Let's
Motion
go.
and a second. As I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Okay. Sorry about that. So that brings us to the town manager's contract. We hired James, is without a contract, basically. He's been working without pay all this time, correct?
I know, volunteer again.
Is most of the contract is the same as what we had with our previous town manager. Is the salary level is starting at $80,000. Is after he has a 6 months probationary period, and after that we can, if we feel he deserves it, we can give him a 3% increase, and then annually thereafter on July 1st, 22, based on his performance. So you better do well, right? Is, everything else is basically the same as before with the health insurance. The town pays 85% and the employee pays 15. The retirement is the same. There's automobile allowance, seminars and professional development. The paid time off is based on years of service. And the holidays will be the same as the other ones. A moving allowance, if you move to Berwick, you get $2,500 within the first year.
Trying.
The cell phone compensation, and it's a 3-year contract. Is any discussion?
I do have a couple questions. So on the paid time off, it says based on employee received service. So that doesn't matter that his employee status changed? Meaning that before he was a hired employee, now he's a contracted employee. Is there a difference in the policy manual? I'm just curious.
I don't think there has been.
And I'm okay. I'm at 5 years of service.
Plus they
I
get
don't
plenty of
have
time
any-
off, they get 3 weeks, plus you get some sick days, and you get what,
Right.
14 holidays, so there's another 2 weeks.
I don't have any issue with
Drives
going
me
back to
crazy.
day one.
Uh-huh.
I don't have any issue with going back to day one.
Too
the whole
much,
5
too
years.
much time off.
What I'm asking is are we within policy to state it this way? Is all I'm
I
asking.
think, yeah, I think Linda's just looking for clarification of
Right.
how that.
If you want to go back to the day that he was originally hired, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we're within our own
I think
policy.
that it's fine starting from day one because his paid time off as a previous employee was set differently than it is as the town manager.
That's what I'm asking. Is it different?
I couldn't answer. Is it different how they figure that between
I don't think so. I think it's the same. I think it's based off me being, I'm accumulating what I'd be accumulating even if I was if I was the full-time director of planning.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there is not a difference between a contracted and a
No,
regular
I
hired.
don't, yeah.
Right. No. I'm receiving, at a 5-year level, and I'm perfectly
Okay.
okay with that.
Okay, all right. I'm, again, just looking for clarification.
Yep.
And then we talked about having Steve continue to be in contact with him regarding
Yeah.
mentoring. So we need to, I don't know if anyone, Patty, you or
We
anyone
have
has
that all done,
started.
don't we?
I had signed a temporary contract with Steve on a daily basis.
Okay, but we need to have an actual contract, because there's a couple things I'd like to see added in there.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah. Well, it's basically what it was that is as an as-needed basis as James
But
determined.
is there a rate or anything like
Yeah,
that?
you got a rate in there. too.
Yeah.
And what was the rate set
I don't know.
based on?
It was based on his current current salary minus his benefits, I believe.
Okay, and
So-
are there specifics regarding, because we had talked about negotiations, things of that nature, availability regarding that?
There's nothing, is Steve, like I said, we talked last week, Steve and James and I, when Steve came down last Wednesday and sat with James, and as from the conversation I had afterwards, you can talk to James about that, is basically Steve and James decided that he really didn't have to come down here anymore unless he wants to visit. So,
No offense to James, but I thought that when we voted this in, that we did so under the understanding that mentor relationship would be there for at least a year.
I think it'll be there forever. I think when James feels the need that he needs some clarification, he can just reach out to him. I don't think that we need to have a contract where it says that Steve's going to be there for a year. I was thinking maybe James would need help up until November or something like that. Was the longest I was looking at.
When is the next contract negotiation?
Well, it starts now, actually, but
So are you in contract negotiation with a group?
We're starting that.
doing the preliminary.
But any questions I have, anytime if I don't feel like have a full grasp on something, I'll call Steve, I'll FaceTime him, I'll get him down here. They're just, what Tom was talking about, what we were talking about, me and Steve, we talked for an hour and a half, and Steve's like, okay, I think, I don't think I need to come down here every week.
I'm not saying necessarily every week, I just thought there were specific bullet points that we talked about during the hiring process. I just wanted to make sure they were clarified and they were outlined.
I thought we were looking more as a general guidance at that time, than specifics. I had full confidence in James before that, he was gonna be able to, hit the ground running and, need very little assistance. Between what Lisa Vargas and Patty and Lisa Hustis have been supplying him with for backup, hasn't been really a need to, consult with Steve much that I understand.
Right.
Steve said when he came down here, basically, he spent his time visiting with people, and that's not a very,
Productive.
yeah.
Well,
But yeah,
we
in
really
terms
don't have
of-
anything for him to talk about. I just think we should have him, he should be available.
He is, yep.
And he is.
Right, but we should have something, we gotta pay him.
We gotta pay and we gotta have something in
Yeah,
writing.
just put something in writing,
Well-
like what you did the other day, and like, we go with it, that way there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk to Steve and see what he feels comfortable with.
Okay.
But we do have there was a one-page sheet that he had that was his day rate,
Yeah,
and then his rate for an hour-long conversation, so we can get that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could start with that. That was temporary for how long?
well,
As-
if you want.
30-day
As-
training or something?
6 months, I believe it was 6 months,
It was 6 months?
that he would be available for 6 months.
So,
Can we see that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, I'd like to see that.
all right. That doesn't specifically have anything to do with James's
No,
contract.
no, this was one brought to the other because,
Right.
um,
Yeah, we'll contact Steve and he can, we'll zoom him in next time and make him explain it all. How's that?
yeah, that's fine, that's good.
No, I'm looking at ways to keep him engaged. So any other questions about James's contract? My only thing was that, we give him a 6 months probationary period, but after 6 months, that puts us right in the middle of budget season, and I don't want to lose you then.
Yeah.
So. If no further questions, motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Can we,
James's
can I
contract.
make one suggestion? I know we talked about there was multiple copies and she needs to make some corrections just on spelling. So can we make a motion to approve the contract with giving Patty the ability to just upgrade the grammatical and spelling mistakes?
Mark's
That way
okay-
she doesn't have to bring it back.
Mark's okay with that, right? Yep. So he amended it.
That's what he meant.
Amended. Right?
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes,
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. All right. Quick claim deeds and installment contracts is abatements. So we have Karen here tonight.
Yes, we do.
Hey Karen, how you doing today? Or tonight?
Thanks, how are you?
Not too bad.
Okay, tonight we have an abatement and a supplement, and they're both somewhat related. For the abatement, the abatement is due to the parcel, which is the remaining land from a lot split. And the building values of the single-family home and the garage were assessed to this remaining parcel when it should have been assessed to the new, 2.3 acre parcel. So as a result, it's recommended that the abatement be granted in the amount of $3,760.65. Again, that's for the building portion that was assessed to this parcel. Any questions?
No?
So, I do have a question, sorry. Is the remaining land, so what you're saying is that the 2.30 acre parcel was not administratively pulled from the larger portion? Is that what you're saying? This is just a administrative correction?
So, so when there was a lot split,
Yeah,
yep, and so the original lot has a house and a garage. And when the lot split took place, we split the lot, but didn't realize that the building and the garage should have been on the smaller parcel.
portion, not the larger.
Instead, it was
Okay.
assessed to the larger parcel.
Okay, sorry, I just, thank you.
Yep,
All right. So we have a motion
I'll make the motion.
to grant.
The abatement.
Yep.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. I'll go through the roll. Mark,
Yes,
Noah,
yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Next one is the supplement, so this is for the lot split. Because it should have been assessed to this parcel, it's recommended that a supplemental tax bill be issued to the owner, and the owner, it's the same owner for both parcels. But he is getting ready to sell it, so we want to make sure we get this corrected. So it's recommended that a supplemental tax be issued to the owners, Richard and Diane Beamish, in the amount of $3,760.65. This is for parcel R11-9-B.
So basically, this is just the correction of the last one.
Exactly, yep, so exactly abating the same amount
Yep.
that we are supplementing.
all right. I make a motion, we approve the abatement.
second it.
We have a motion and a second. As I'll go through the roll. Is Mark,
Yes,
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. All right. Is that it, Karen?
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good night.
All right, let's see, where did my thing go? We did that, we did that. We have no second public session. And we have no executive session. Under other business and non-agenda items, we have one quick claim deed. This is one that we voted on last year, and it never got registered. So it's for 196 Little River Road. This is one that we, like I said, we voted on a couple years back, and it never got filed. So this is basically just, acknowledging that we already issued the quitclaim deed for this parcel. Is that correct, Patty? Or close enough?
Yes,
Yep.
so I just need a motion to acknowledge the quitclaim deed from February 2019, and
Right.
to move forward with that.
Right. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
We have a
second it.
We have a motion and a second. As I'll go through the roll. Mark,
Yes,
Noah,
Yes.
Linda,
yes,
Mike,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for bringing it up, Patty. And I believe that is it. We have one more motion to make.
make a motion to adjourn?
We have a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody.
you're welcome.
I got a bunch of signatures, Mark.
Night.
I won't need you